Am I cheating by having AI run my ads for me? I'll let you decide, because I'm just an author who used to make $20,000 a month and then stopped making it, and I'm using it on my journey back. So my system that I've been doing has changed a bit. I am continuing to use the app I created, my passive income machine, which I'll refer to as PIM moving forward. I've continued to use PIM to manage my ads. So originally, this was created so that if I created an ad, it would keep track of it, figure out whether or not it's making a profit, whether it's losing money or anything else, and then it would extend the ad, the length, the time I'm running the ad if it was making a profit, give it more money if it was doing really well, or shut it off quickly if it was doing badly. And that's how I was doing. So I would go to this section here on the app, and I would look at the tests I was running on the ads. Lady Gaga was doing well, New Adult was doing poorly. I'd run tests, and I would use these tests to determine which ads I would run next. And then I started thinking, I'm just a puny human. And we have created society, humanity, the smartest machine in the history of the world. Why am I using my puny human brain to make these decisions when I could have the world's smartest machine do it? So I sat down and figured out what elements go into making a decision of which ads to run next. And I decided to teach that to PIM and the AI attached to it, and have it start making decisions. So my first attempt at that is something I call Profile Strategy 1. Profile Strategy 1 just basically had a goal, and it had actions it could take. So there's a benchmark being used in AI called the vending machine benchmark. So every time a new model is released, there's a person who goes and runs it through the vending machine benchmark. And essentially what it is, it's a simulated world where the AI runs a vending machine, and it's there to determine how much profit that model can make running a vending machine over a year's time period. And the AI I'm using made $7,000 starting from $500 on that machine. So I was like, okay, great. This is essentially, my app is basically just like a vending machine, right? It has, you take actions, you get feedback from unit sales from KDP dashboard and from ACX, and I know how much I spend because of Facebook. It just has to maximize stuff. So I said, with strategy profile number 1, what it'll be is I'll just tell it what I want, which is to make $20,000 a month above baseline, so just pure profit, every month sustainably. That's the goal. And the things it can manipulate are the ads that are run for the books. Great. I did that, and its first thought was to go out and find all my past ads that were successful and just turn them on and see what happens. I made it decide on a hypothesis for every ad. So it had to decide why turn this one on and come up with a hypothesis for it. And it did. And it created 59 ads and ran 59 ads with varying degrees of success. Now, it also decided to change my strategy. Originally, my strategy was I would spend $5 to $7 per day for 8 days. And then in those 8 days, it would decide whether or not it should be shut off afterwards. It would watch it for 12 days after the ad ended to figure out whether it was profitable or not. And there are phases where the app itself, where the actual app determines whether or not the ad is successful and whether or not it should be extended, whether or not it should be shut off, and all that stuff. So that was my original plan. It decided that it would be better to not spend so much money. So instead of spending $5 to $7 a day or $5 to $8 a day, it spends between $3 and $5 a day. It'll be $5 on ads that have most likely had success or most recently had success, and $3 a day on ads that are just discovery ads, like just trying to figure out what happens when you run a certain ad. So I decided on that, and also decided to cut it from 8 days down to 5 days. So it's spending minimal money and it's just testing a bunch of ads. And the result was a lot of losses. It still broke even, but it was like there was a lot of loss ads. So I decided to take a look at it and make changes. I came up with profile strategy number 2. And with that, I decided that it's just too random to go, how many, like what ads were successful in the past, let's run that and let's hope we get to $20,000 a month. I was like, no, in the past, what we did is I looked at like certain series and determined like it should be making this much money. So I spent more money on certain series and all that stuff. But in an even smarter way, if I had more like a larger bandwidth, I would look at each individual series and try and maximize each series in each territory. And that's what it should be doing. So I set that up as a profile strategy number 2, and it instead now looks at all the various series, looks at all the ways it used to make money when it was successful, and determine what needs to happen in order to meet these individual goals for each of the series in each of the territories. And that way we could get to $20,000 a month. And that resulted in it acting more conservatively. And I can show the result. So here is overall, this includes ads I ran and including ads that it ran. I have found 35, the green represents profit above 25% return on investment. They go from 375% return on investment, 276 return on investment, 193 return on investment, and it goes all the way down into the white area, down to a 3% return on investment. So I have found 35 ads that are profitable, which is amazing because before I had this app, I could barely find 3. So now I found 35 ads that are profitable, but it took all of these red ads here for me to do it. That is a lot of losses, like a lot of losses. I'm still in the profit scheme, but a lot of losses. But specifically, the ad came up with these ads here. The app came up with these ads here that I should run. So where it says R0 something is it generating it itself, like looking at past successes. And this was mostly profile 1. During strategy profile number 1, it ran 59 ads. 59 ads looking for successes. And out of the 59 ads, only these here were successful. And all of these here were losses. That's a lot of losses. But again, you have to think of it, it's only like spending between $3 and $5 a day on these ads and only running for 5 days. And you can see the result of that. So if we were to take a look at this here, this graph here, this is the last 30 days of revenue and spend for me. This was while I was running the system. I was testing ads like slowly, maybe a different ad territory every day, and then figuring out what worked and turn it on and stuff. And you can see I was spending a lot of money, and there's a lot of times when I wasn't making very much profit. Here I made $38. Here I made $14 a day in profit for my entire business. Not good, right? But I realized it was just testing, and like I had more success. Here was $100 of profit. Here was $98 of profit. So this is what I was doing previously. Revenue was going up. Profit was down because it was like a lot of losses I was working through. And then I decided to do strategy number 1 and let the AI take care of it. And I went from spending, here I spent was $119 in spend. And the very next day was $271 in spend. Huge jump. And I immediately started losing money. The next day, I didn't make money. It was $82 in profit. The next day was $40 in profit. This was a big loss of $74 in profit. But this was, all the ads were just set up for 5 days, which is good because after 5 days, it eliminated the failures. It stopped giving money to the failures and continued running the profitable ones. And this is where you see the big drops. So it went from spending $250 for the day to spending $166 for a day. And the result was that I had my best day in like 2 years, which is $430 in revenue and $260 in profit. Great. The next day was $100 in profit. The next day was $171 in profit. And this is on strategy number 2. So it seems to be working. It seems to be handling it more conservatively and making me more money. And we can take a look at my progress chart here, right? So when I did my first video, that was on 5/18, I had a rolling 30-day revenue of $5,800. Today, it's $7,400, but that's revenue, that's not profit. It turns out on January 1st, when I had my worst revenue month, it actually wasn't so bad with profit because I wasn't running very many ads, so it was mostly pure profit. But when I started running, like when I first did my first video, I had about $1,400 in profit. Today I have $1,900 in profit, which isn't great. But you have to keep in mind that that includes the 30 days when I was spending this much and making very little. So eventually those 30 days will work itself out and I'll have profits starting from this day here, which will be a lot higher than, $1,500. And if I were to just let it keep running the way it is, I'm sure that I could get to like $5,000 or $6,000 just from the ads I'm running right now. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with the app. The strategy seems to be working, but I mean, the problem is now I feel kind of lost because I'm inventing this on the fly. I don't know what I'm doing. I can tell you what I did this morning, and I think this is probably going to be closer to how I work with the app in the future. So Pim, my guy, the AI I'm working with, my chief strategist, we've come up with a kind of a plan of how we do this. So with AIs can like spin off sub-agents. So if you need a specific task done, it will create a sub-agent and the sub-agent will do that task. So I've had Pim create sub-agents. Those sub-agents do things like they analyze my data every day, figure out what hypothesis that it ran worked and what didn't work. And it comes up with a daily strategy. It looks at strategy profile number 2, figures out whether it has enough data to then work out what to do next, and then it comes up with suggestions. And I have different agents that do different things. Pim, my guy, will then look at all the reports that are created each day and determine whether or not ads should be added to the list of ads that should go live or not. Now, I'm thinking of Pim as my newest employee. And the way I've handled employees in the past is when I've hired assistants is I've given them the instructions, I allow them to consume the instructions, and then for like 2 weeks or so, I basically get on a call with them and they do the work while I sit over their shoulder and I just watch what they're doing. If they have any questions, they ask me, but I'm there as a resource until they get secure with what they're doing. So that's what I'm doing with Pim. I'm slowly trying to get him from where he is now, where he's basically just a strategist, to a guy who's going to be handling everything. So yesterday was the first day where I said to Pim, okay, I want you to run this ad that was successful in the United States. I want you to run that same ad in Canada, Australia, and the UK. And I want you to send it live because previously it would set it up in the list of ads to run live. And I would press the button and it would go and it would make it live. So yesterday I said, just take care of everything. And what it did is it took the US ad, it then changed the links and stuff to make it go to the UK, to make it go to Canada, make it go to Australia, and it just created it, and then it sent it live. And I've learned that I had to create a separate agent that had to spin off a separate agent that will double check its work. So that separate agent came and double checked to make sure that it ended up in the correct folder on Facebook, that it had the correct links in Facebook and all that stuff. But that's an example of how I'm like slowly getting PIM to take care of all the work for me. And today I did something a little more challenging, which was there's an ad that's running really well for me in the US, and I would like to run an equivalent ad in Germany. So I went and created the German ad, gave the image to them, and said, okay, I want you to create an ad using this image based on the ads that were currently running for book 4 in the series, but I want you to change out the text that's in the ad from the stuff that's specifically for book 4 to the equivalent text for book 1. So it had to then go to my website where I have all of the data, like my blurbs and my chapters, my excerpts and stuff. I had to teach it to go to my website, find the equivalent, whether it's the blurb for book 1 or whether it's the chapter 1 for book 1 or whether it's the excerpt, figure out what was used in the old ad, pull it from my website to create the new ad, and then go and publish it to the list and then publish it to Facebook. Eventually, I would like to be able to just say, okay, this is the ad in English. I want you to go to ChatGPT, create this ad image in German with the correct book cover, and then just publish it from there. And then eventually I want it to be able to just have the spin-off ad that like makes the daily analysis, have it make suggestions, then have PIM look at it, determine whether or not a new image has to be created, go and create that image, and then drop it in the ad and make it run live, and then do all the analysis necessary. That's a tall order. But like if it were another employee, each day I'm teaching it new things in order to be able to accomplish that task. And hopefully I can get my progress bar to go from 7,400 to 20,000 and get the profit all the way up there. Now, in order to do this, I've given PIM a budget of $6,000 a month, which might seem like a lot, but if I want to get to $20,000 a month in profit, I need to spend way more than $6,000 a month in ad spend. So $6,000 a month is just like its starting phase until I feel secure that it could generate more profit than losses, which it's doing right now, but I want it to be a lot more profit than losses. Until I do that, I won't give it more money. But I mean, if you want to follow along and see whether or not this grand experiment works, whether or not I can go from earning, $1,500 a month in profit above baseline to $20,000 a month using AI, subscribe. And if you like this video, just so I know you're out there, please like it so I know that people are watching and that you care. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the comment section and I'll get to it as quickly as possible. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's how I'm using AI to run my ads business. Is this a cheat code? Am I cheating? Am I gaming the system? You tell me. But until next time, I'll see you then.